And for more, we cross to Subir Sinha in London, director of SOAS South Asia Institute and reader in development studies. Thank you for being with us here on France 24.
Thanks very much for having me.
First off, for you, what's this, the fact that the French president is going to Delhi for the 75th anniversary of Republic Day, what's your reaction?
It is not at all surprising. This is at one level a reciprocal visit. As you mentioned earlier on, Mr. Modi himself was in Paris last year for a similar occasion. But also Mr. Macron has taken, I think, many measures to re-emphasize that it's not just about the two countries. He has referred to Mr. Modi as being a very close friend. We can see the hug on your screen, sort of showing that they seem to be on the same page. It's not surprising also because, as your report mentioned, France is selling large numbers of fighter jets and also nuclear reactors to India. These things go partly, through ignoring questions of human rights. But then, of course, we are living in a time when the idea of human rights itself is very heavily weakened because the idea of the human is very heavily weakened. And I do not expect that Mr. Macron has any qualms about doing what he is doing at the moment, which is to show overt support for an increasingly authoritarian prime minister.
It was interesting because the U.S. president, who, by the way, welcomed Narendra Modi to a state dinner at the White House, he elected not to go for Republic Day. Your thoughts on why Macron did?
See, in my view, the American president has a number of, and in fact, the American state has a number of organs. For example, the United States Senate Committee on International Religious Freedoms and so forth, in which a criticism of Mr. Modi has been going on for quite a while. So there are other, as you said, the Americans have decided to not go at this point in time. And in fact, there was a moment of some embarrassment for Mr. Modi because his party had announced that Biden was coming without having taken any such clearance from the American administration. So when Mr. Macron sort of stepped in, he sort of saved face for Mr. Modi.
And just to be clear, is this all about the fact that Republic Day is happening 4 days after Narendra Modi consecrated the Ayodhya temple on the site of a former mosque?
So that basically also begs the question about, in what way is India still a republic? We constitutionally, of course, are one. But if you pay attention to Hindi language media, they refer to Modi as a semi-god, semi-king. They refer to words like coronation, which are not really words which are compatible with a republic. So the idea that a republic is one in which we do not have the supreme authority of God or the idea that we have a king is now slowly but steadily being eroded by the coronation, if not formally, but at least in popular and in media culture, of Mr. Modi as a demigod or a saint, someone who floats above the kind of everyday messiness of politics. And it seems to me that that is really ironic that a country such as France, one of the first republics in the world, from where the idea of republicanism comes, to much of the world, including to our constitution, is so comfortable in doing all of this. But again, that is not surprising because there are many tendencies in Macron's politics in France, the suppression of social movements and of mass protests, the outflanking of the right, such as what we heard in the report just before this one. These seem very resonant with what has been going on in India. And I should say that within Mr. Modi's own politics, there has been an anti-human rights rhetoric going back to the days that he was Chief Minister of the state of Gujarat. In fact, his party and his ministers have spoken about the fact that they have a very different conception of human rights than the West. And of course, the opportunistic way in which countries like France, the US, etc., have used the concept of human rights to discipline, people or countries as and when they seem fit, but at the same time to go ahead with large sales of arms and other nuclear material and things like that. I think one has to be quite cynical about the way in which the idea of human rights is currently playing out in international affairs.
That said, the French president is slated to visit a Muslim Sufi shrine in Delhi's Nizamuddin West neighborhood. Balancing?
It cannot balance. in terms of what has been going on in India. Nizamuddin is a great place, and I hope he learns something from it and he enjoys this visit. But the assault on Muslims in all walks of life is really quite widespread in India. We saw that also after the recent consecration of the Ram Temple. Many episodes, including in cities like Mumbai, have happened where attacks have taken place by vigilante groups, and one has to kind of think in terms of the almost kind of singularity and unity between vigilante groups, the mob, the political party, and agencies of the state, which you will recognize have resonances in previous historical moments around the world.
One final question for you, Subir Sinha. This is, of course, coming ahead of a general election slated to take place late April, early May. It's the BJP of Narendra Modi is heavily favored to win a third term. That said, elections in India, sometimes they play out on local issues. Is it a foregone conclusion that Modi wins?
No election is a foregone conclusion. And one thing about Mr. Modi's election campaign is how he has switched off local issues. So you will hear him, as we have done in previous election campaigns, including for, kind of local elections, village council elections. He tells the voters that each vote that they give to his political party or on his party symbol is directly a vote for him. Very often you will find people do not know the names of the people that they've locally elected. And in fact, quite often they may not even know the names of the chief ministers of the state. So it's a highly centralized political system where all power is ultimately centralized in the hands of Mr. Modi and a very small group of strategists and, party people around him. And of course, in the hands of the parent organization, which is known as the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh or the RSS. So I think the idea that democracy is about, or elections are about local issues, I don't think that plays out anymore. It is all about whether or not you believe in Mr. Modi and his desires for transforming India further along his own political project in the next 5 years. And it's been quite interesting when you say that, is it a foregone conclusion? Let us just see how much the Ram Temple plays out in the election campaign. He's a much revered god around India. We saw in the recent state elections that many of the so-called star campaigners actually said, promised voters that they would be taken to Ayodhya for what is called darshan, or to be able to go and witness the temple. So to take the help of Bhagwan Ram for an election shows to me that they are on a slightly less stable ground than what we are given to understand.
Subir Sinha, thank you so much for joining us from London.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us. More to come, more news, plus the day's business and sports.